Welcome back to Tech Take. I'm Adam Housley, live in Southern California. We're on the road today in Marina del Rey, California, and joining us thousands of miles away in a much colder location is Yaverbaum. He's the chairman of Ericho Communications. He's here to talk about the fact that the U.S. is giving up control of the Internet. Now, Eric, you know, it was based here in Southern California, a nonprofit that ran the Internet. A lot of Americans may not realize that. And now that is being given up to an international, we assume, some sort of international coalition. And the U.S., which pretty much developed this entire thing, is no longer going to have control of it. And a lot of people are equating this to a situation back a long time ago when the U.S. gave up control to the Panama Canal. They're saying this one is obviously a much bigger deal, and it is. What's your take on all this?
You know, the Panama Canal to me, I mean, it makes sense. This doesn't make sense to me at all. Yeah, I mean, the Internet was hatched in the United States, and the Department of Commerce subcontracted it to ICANN. I mean, since 1998. We're giving that away. International pressure to do so. It's, you know, what we're saying publicly is it's the right thing to do. And they begin, you know, meetings in Singapore on just a few days from now to discuss how they're going to begin the transition of who's going to govern the Internet. To me, it's a terrible idea. I have no idea why we would be giving this away. You know, under the umbrella of the notion of free speech. I mean, if you think that Russia and China, who have been the biggest, you know, naysayers at the UN about they want some sort of, you know, control of the Internet, if you think that, you know, Russia and China are going to, you know, rah-rah free speech, that's not happening.
Well, not just Russia and China. Let's look at Venezuela. Look at all the other countries around the globe right now that are inhibiting free speech, that are cracking down on people for doing what we obviously sometimes overvalue here in the U.S. What's interesting also right now, for example, for people at home, we have an article up on foxnews.com about this. I know, Eric, that you've checked out that article as well as the situation itself. Is this a situation where the U.S. once again, and you can tie this to foreign policy, is just backing down, not being a leader on the block, so to speak, and saying, you know what, we're the kinder, gentler nation. The problem with that is, as you mentioned, you have countries now that are going to be involved in the decision-making process that are cracking down, imprisoning, in some cases killing people for having free speech.
Yeah, you know, every country has different rules and regulations. I mean, there's countries where you're not going to be able to say, like, .Catholic, just as one example. To me, to give this up is like letting, you know, a fox in the hen house. We're all about free speech, and, you know, here's the thing about the Internet is it's not broken. There's no snow days. It works. The only reason, and the reason that I bring up, you know, China and Russia is because they are the two biggest, you know, mouths at the table in the UN who are saying that we ought to. And we're saying, you know, it's, publicly at least, it's the right thing to do. It's the wrong thing to do. And yeah, this is, it's all about diplomacy, but I don't agree.
Yeah, no, and does it go back to, I mean, I don't want to bash the administration, but, you know, a lot of people have criticized our foreign policy in recent years, and you can go back to the previous administration. People had, of course, concerns with the way we handled wars. The current administration, the way we handled Russia, the most obvious and most recent example, does this go directly back to the leadership of the country? Are they, I mean, is this the president and his staff that made this decision to go ahead and allow this to go to countries, as you mentioned, Russia and China, who right now, if you don't say what Putin wants you to hear, if you don't do what the communist leadership in China wants you to do, they put you in prison. They do, or worse.
Well, I mean, you know, you use the Panama Canal as a sort of a metaphorical parallel or example. I would say right now, look at Russia. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, at that vote at the UN, they had the one veto. So they get to do what they want, and they can rewrite history because they vetoed what everybody else wanted. You know, I don't know if you can, you know, specifically point your finger at the current administration. This has sort of been a long time coming. It's been discussed for a long time. It was always the intention. And, you know, even right now, as those meetings start in Singapore on the 23rd, they're saying that no government organization is going to be able to, you know, run roughshod over the Internet. You know, that's good, you know, rhetoric. It's good in theory, but I don't, you know, think that that's possibly going to happen.
Why is the U.S., why do we do these things? I mean, everyone comes to us when something goes down. We're not perfect. We make stupid mistakes, as we know, foreign policy-wise, have for generations, have across party lines. You can't say it's just Republicans or just Democrats, or, you know, obviously people make that argument, but you can't make that argument when you really look at it fairly. Why do we do these things? Why are we giving up something that we created? And let's be candid here, we're the freest, fairest nation in the world. China and Russia can make all the argument they want, but everyone pretty much would agree with that around the globe. We're not, again, not being perfect. Why would we give this up to a situation that might end up like the UN, where you have multiple countries trying to make a decision, and you know they're not going to come to a conclusion. You know that is not going to happen.
You know, I think that, you know, to frame the current environment, you know, Edward Snowden sort of accelerated, you know, the conversations. It turns out that, you know, the government's in cahoots with Google, and so, you know, where are we safe? Who's not looking at our stuff? What about our privacy? That really expedited, you know, this particular decision. You know, a lot of people say it was inevitable. I have no idea why we do this. I think it's an enormous mistake. I think that we ought to keep, you know, the keys to the internet. I mean, it was hatched here. We invented it. And we don't censor. You're allowed to say what you want here. Everybody is. You're allowed to do that, and you don't go to jail for doing it. And that's the great thing about this country.
Eric Yaverbaum, yeah, I can speak from experience of being in some of those countries that don't allow you to speak very clearly or fairly or openly, that it is definitely prevalent. And you don't have to even, you know, say that from recent reports. You can really document a lot of countries that are not open whatsoever with the internet, and for that matter, for any kind of press in their own countries. Eric Yaverbaum, I know if people at home want to learn more about this, they can go to foxnews.com. The article is up talking about the fact that we're handing over the controls of the internet to an international group. How that's going to play out, we don't know yet, but it sounds like it's going to be something that's going to be quite interesting to follow to see how it all plays out. Eric Yaverbaum, the chairman of Ericho Communications, we always appreciate you coming on, talking about everything with the internet, and I'm sure we'll have you on again as more of the Snowden stuff comes out as well.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm Adam Housley. We're on the road today in Marina Del Rey, California, and you're watching Tech Take.